Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm going to be going over what happened to my spear gun. Specifically, this is my Pathos Sniper 85 roller that many of you are probably familiar with. This has been such a great platform for me when diving. There's a bunch of pros and cons with it, but overall, I love the spear gun. It's been fantastic so far. But today, I want to highlight what happened here. As you may have noticed, I have another trigger and handle on the table, and this is my older one, and this is a new one. Both handle and trigger mechanism. This is the D'Angelo 1 mechanism for Pathos. This is the D'Angelo 3. And then also I had the Eurospec handle, and I'll explain what that is shortly. But this one, I have the American spec. So what happened overall was that last year I had an issue with the trigger mech. For those of you that follow my Instagram, the trigger itself was getting pushed out and kind of flared. Yeah, it just fell out of place, essentially. I'll put some photos and videos here. Essentially what happened was that I took it to Spear America, and we addressed the issue by first switching out the actual trigger mechanism. So this one currently that you see here on this handle is the second one. The original one, we thought there was an issue with the actual trigger where it was catching on the shaft as it came in to load, and we thought maybe the metal was bent. So the second trigger, it was working fine for the first couple dives, and by the fourth or so dive, the most recent dive, actually, it happened again. So I went back to the shop. Jose, shout out to you from Spear America Costa Mesa. Jose's been awesome, very knowledgeable. But yeah, so I think we found the issue. I haven't shot this yet. I did take this diving on my most previous dive, but I didn't shoot it because I was hoping for white sea bass. But nevertheless, didn't catch one. But we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you I'm going to use the opportunity to show you the differences between the new trigger mech and handle of Pathos and the old one. And then we're also going to kind of go over, of course, what went wrong and was it preventable, and also my personal opinions on the handle itself, the issues, and is it solvable, or do enhancements need to be made? So I'm going to be sharing that story. From what I see online, this issue doesn't happen very often, or is not, at least not shared. So hopefully this issue is just some weird oddball issue. And without further ado, let's dive in. First, what I'm going to do is take apart the mechanism, and then we're going to observe the handles together. The mechanisms, see if there's any differences that we can observe, and then I'll just essentially explain what the issue was. So let's dive in. All right, so let's get started. Here we have the old handle, the new one. What I'm going to do is first take off the actual grip, and then I'll take out the mech, and then we can compare. So go ahead and take this off. What you can do, there's just a little wedge in there. You punch it out. I have just this punch here. I'm sure ideally you can use like a nylon punch. Alrighty, so we have our original handle out. I actually broke the pin that goes through here, so be careful with that. It's a pretty brittle piece, but I'd recommend maybe a nylon punch, maybe not a 7/32 punch. Fits pretty well. So if you were to use that, 7/32. But anyway, got that out. So we have the ergonomic handle. You obviously have the main handle frame here. And then the previous owner had sprayed foam. You don't have to do that, but just so you're aware, it doesn't come from the factory with the foam like this, as far as I'm aware. We have that. And we actually have the trigger mech, this guy right here. And I'm going to pull out the new one, the D'Angelo 3, and you'll see a difference. Immediately, you'll probably notice that it's not a side release, it's a pin release. So what I'm referring to is that little pin right there. that releases the line. When you shoot, you could actually take this piece out. Anyway, let's move on to the new one. Let's take off the handle, or the grip, so I don't break this one. And then we'll pull out the actual trigger mech. And how you do that, for those of you that don't know, you push this push pin out, and then the whole mechanism can get pushed out that way. So be careful on this part. There's actually a spring right there, if you can see. And you just don't want to lose that. So as you pull this up, for me, I can just grab a punch, get underneath the trigger, or even in the trigger, but I usually go underneath, and just kind of slowly push up. Out at this point. Take this off. There we go. D'Angelo 3 trigger mech, and then the handle. Let's compare. All right, let's first start with kind of the easy stuff, the obvious. These are two different grips. Pathos does offer the universal right here, and this is the one mine originally came with, and then here's the more molded one. Yeah, these are pretty much the same as the older models and the newer models. So these are universal, and then the molded. So if you're right-handed, you can use this, and it fits a little nicer, feels good in the hand. And then universal, it's still comfortable, but nowhere near as comfortable as the other one. There you go. So that's out of the way. The grips are easy. Let's go on to the mechanisms. So we have these two here. Can you spot the difference? Let me zoom in. So we have this one right here. This is the first D'Angelo handle, or the trigger mech. This one's been used quite a bit. So essentially how it works is it's a pin release. So you have your line wrapped around that pin. And then just imagine there's tension, you have the bands loaded, and then once you're ready, pull the trigger, drops this, releases the line, and you're off to the races. So that's pretty much it. Pretty simple design. See that catch? Yeah. See the catch on the trigger right there, the indent, and then once you release, it should drop. See that? That's pretty much it. So there we are. There's some like bushings right there, here, washers, 1, 2, and then also on the trigger, 1, 2. Really hard to see, but they're really small, like white washers there. So there we have that. All right. Next, we have the D'Angelo 3, and I could tell you just immediately, this older one feels a lot heavier, and it does look like it's thicker in terms of just, yeah, it just seems thicker. But you see from the back, shapes, clearly you notice something right away. First one, the line release. This one is a side release like most other spear guns. The pin release is not very common anymore, but essentially similar to that one. You load the spear gun. Let's just say it's loaded. We have some tension here, so it's pushing forward because of the line. And then as you pull the trigger, releases. And this falls forward, and then the line can shoot out that way. That's pretty much it. So in terms of like the foundational kind of technology, I guess, of Pathos's trigger, it's the same as their older version. However, well, first, one thing is lighter. It just feels lighter. You'll notice from the side some additional cuts. So there's one right here, which is interesting. S. I assume it's for sniper, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. If anyone knows why that is, let me know. Obviously, on the older one right here, there's a hole, and that's where the pin release goes. So right there. And I believe, my assumption is that, because on the new one, there's no point of that hole being there. I assume, well, first, machining, it's already done, and it's on the old version, it doesn't really affect anything as far as I can tell, and they just left it in. And yeah, that's all I think it is. I think it's just a tooling thing. It's already in the system. But anyway, we have that. And then secondly, you'll notice on the old one, no hole, one hole, or there's two holes here, and there's three. So one where the release is, where same here, where the hinging part of that release, and then we have another hole here for the new one, and same placement of the hole in the old one as well. But you could just see the height difference of the rear. Let me see if I can get this, maybe like this. Look at the top one. This is the old one. It just looks denser to me visually. But yeah, it's just interesting. The new design, oh, last thing, or one other thing I noticed was on the bottom here, there's this bushing roller. Does it roll? It's really interesting. I'm assuming it's supposed to be centered, but it seems like it's made out of some plastic polymer or something, reduced drag. Oh, it does roll, which is really interesting. So let's see if we can figure out what that is. So we pull the trigger. So let's see, pull the trigger, releases, and then I guess it holds up the release. Anyway, that's something I observed that's a little different compared to the old one. You can see this one is the old one, doesn't have it. And obviously that side release is there. So trigger mech wise, very, I mean, essentially the same technology, but definitely some variations. I don't know if this is just because it's newer, it just feels smoother versus this guy right here. So there we go. There are the mechanisms, D'Angelo 1 and 3. All right, here we go. The main part of this video are the handles, and we're gonna find out exactly what the problem was. Here we go. Bring out, make sure not to lose your stuff. This spring here. I'm not going to take the handle off, the new handle off the Speargun, so I'm just going to leave it right there. Actually, for the purposes of this video, it needs to be like this, actually. All right, so old handle, new handle. I'm going to reframe the camera so you can. All right, so here we go. Top view. We're going to look at the handles. This is the main culprits of our trigger issue, and you'll find out why. So here's the old one, and here's the new one. So a couple things you'll notice right away is that this portion right here is milled. This one is not, so completely flat. Kind of doesn't have any sort of tapering or anything like that, versus the new one. See it from the side. There's a portion cut right here, and that's just for the side release. And one other thing I'll point out that's definitely different is the safety. I learned this at the spearfishing shop, but some of you might be wondering, what's the big deal? Safety is all going to have that. Apparently not. European spec models don't have safeties. And when I first got this Speargun, I was wondering why the safety wasn't working. I was pressing down on this and nothing inside the handle was locking anything. So this moves something, but nothing locks. It is not a safety. Versus on this one, the new one, you can see, hopefully, see that move? That is a safety. But yes, here we go. The actual problem. So, I don't know if you can see this, but the trigger sits in here, the trigger mech obviously. The spring sits right on top of that little nub. So just for right here, like that. Trigger goes on top and that helps it reset. Not a big deal. But the reason why I point that out is because this nub also there should be one down there. Let's see if I can get a good view. There should be one in there, right here. So that's where the trigger here, it would be contacting this portion right here. And that's so when the shaft needs to pass this way, this tooth or kind of part that first contacts the shaft is not too high. And if it is too high, it'll catch the shaft and it'll yank the trigger forward. And that's essentially what happened with my what was going on with my Speargun. So that nub was missing. So there was no kind of limiter, I guess, of when it could reset. And so it would reset sometimes like this. This would catch and yank the trigger like this, and then I would pretty much be done. So that's what was going on. Let me show you the new one. And you could see the nub, hopefully. You see that nipple nub right there? Compared to there you have it, and that is the issue. That little plastic nub right there. See if we can get a better view. No, I think this is the best one. But yeah, you can see that nipple right there. So that was the issue. All that was essentially the thing that should be limiting the trigger from resetting, or I guess resetting awkwardly. This would be in here. And essentially, let me use the old trigger mech. It's the old one, obviously. That would sit in there. And this, the trigger, instead of, I'm going to exaggerate for the sake of the video, instead of sitting like this, it'd be sitting, that nub would be preventing it from going, but the nub was gone, so it'd sit like a little bit higher. And you see that tooth get caught on the shaft, and then it would yank it forward like this. So there you go. That was the issue. Now you know a little bit more about the Pathos handles and trigger mechs, how they work. Hopefully, if you are a Speargun builder, I have some opinions on the overall design. I still think overall the trigger feel is really good, but I do find that to be a small, big problem. I bought my original Speargun secondhand, and it's hard to say for sure, but it's hard to say if it was actually milled out or if it was yanked out, just from loading the shaft so many times. But you let me know what you think. But regardless, I think it's a really easy way, really easy area for Pathos to reinforce that little nub. I think just making the nub a little bit bigger, I don't think it impedes on any sort of functionality, and nor will people really notice. So there you go. The handle was the main issue, the old one at least. This guy, hopefully I can slay some fish with it. But for now, I'm gonna put this back together. Alrighty, we're wrapped up. Finally got the handle in. It took a little bit of finagling because the frame hole and the handle hole wasn't matching up properly. So I had to do a little MacGyvering. I heated up some metal and kind of widened the hole, and then now the pin fits nicely in there. It's nice and secure. We have our D'Angelo 3 handle on my Pathos 85 once again, now with the nice handle. But yeah, here we go. We're gonna load it. Nice loaded. And then nice smooth release. There we go. So there you have it. That's what happened with my Pathos 85 sniper, old handle. Very particular issue. I don't know for sure if it's from excessive use of the shaft going in too aggressively, or if the previous owner shaved it down. From the looks of it, it looks like, I don't know, it looks like it was torn off, but it's really hard to say. But nevertheless, Speargun is working up and working again. And yeah, there you go. Hope you learned something new. At least you can compare the different trigger mechanisms from Pathos. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.